All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a real treat tonight live on Sportswire Radio because our guest not only has been a one-man revolution, he has been a real boss man that holds not one, not two, but three major promotions championships, including our friends over in DBW, their Hub City Championship, the Texas Ground Zero Heavyweight Championship, where get this, ladies and gentlemen, he's held that championship for over 1,100 days. And to top it, you saw it recently, right before 2023 closed. He won that VTW Championship of the World in the main event, and we saw all of it unfold and some. This man, it's his first time here on Sportswire Radio. He's got to get that introduction that everybody else has gotten, especially many of his peers, and trying to figure out if it really is his best friend or not that recently got that introduction in Chase Wakefield. And we're even going to talk about a couple of pit stops that our guest is going to be on, where some guy named The Barbarian is going to be on that same show. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time, after all, to give him that introduction that everybody else has gotten. So, with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one, global sports show, the reigning, defending Texas Ground Zero heavyweight champion, the DBW Hope City champion, and the VTW heavyweight champion of the world. They call him the Real Bossman, Aaron Jones. The champ is here.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Tom. How are you doing?
We'll let you know after my voice is feeling after the interview. I got another one at 9:30. I have like a break, an intermission almost, and we'll see how I do after that. But right now, it is an absolute honor to have you on here, the real boss man, Aaron Jones, because you have been a champion in not one, not two, but three promotions, and really three of the more important promotions in this sport. There is so much to talk with you on in a short amount of time. I've got comments already. I'll get to comments. But I have to ask you then, for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, right off the bat, talk to me about what it means, once again, to be the VTW champion of the world.
Simply put enough, to be the VCW World Heavyweight Champion means that I am on a different level. To be the VCW World Heavyweight Champion means that I had to put in the work. This is not a championship that you're handed. This is a championship that is very much earned. This is a championship that has been looked upon in the past as something that many men have wanted to hold, and very few have got the chance. Very few have even got the chance to wrestle for it, let alone have it on their shoulder, around their waist, or be introduced as it. So to be your current VTW World Heavyweight Champion means that I did put in that work, means that I am the man. You could say I'm the real boss man, the one-man revolution, the
I
anarchist,
did like
the
saying that,
blackout.
by the way, in the intro. I have to say, I really enjoyed saying that. I mean, I wasn't going to open up with, being friends with Chase Wakefield. I had to do the formal introduction because you are Aaron Jones.
Yes. But, I mean, to be the VTW World Heavyweight Champion, I mean, honestly, it's great. I mean, it's something I've worked really hard for, especially since VTW returned 1 year ago to YouTube with the new moniker of Versus the World. And if you look at me in January to now, there's a huge progression. So to be able to end the year as VTW World Heavyweight Champion, I mean, I think that shows that I put in that work.
I was going to ask you about that because VTW returns, and I've spoke a lot about VTW over the past number of months here in Real Talk, obviously with different guys that have been in and out throughout. Cynic obviously was in the main event, and certainly, man, you faced off in Redemption Championship Wrestling. I'm definitely going to get to
Mhm.
that in a little while. Chase Wakefield, we've had on a couple of times. The Blaze, Ace Christian. I mean, there's a number of different people that have come on that are in DBW that are a part of VTW, but VTW has this following in a way that maybe it is unmatched. A lot of people come on from different places and we love them. We truly, I mean,
Mhm.
stateside with the companies that are here in this scene, I wouldn't be where I am without them. But VTW really has, in a short amount of time, maybe with this new reboot, has maybe amassed this following and the way everything is well done. I mean, to me, this is a big deal being their champion. You're the guy going into 2024. I mean, you've got this massive following, over 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, thousands and thousands of people watch these shows. I mean, no pressure there, champ, huh?
No pressure at all. I mean, and if you look back at the past champions, guys like Zach Daniels and D-Lock,
Absolutely.
who have done a phenomenal job at holding this title over this past year, I mean, they're not easy shoes to fill. They're not. And if you look at the start of the year, I didn't know how VTW was going to work out for us. VTW used to stand for Vintage Technical Wrestling, and we realized once we decided to return, it was us versus the world. And it just so happens to play that out. It is. It's versus the world wrestling now. And from my progression in January, coming out and basically telling Tyler Aiken, I don't think that you deserve to be in charge here. I'm the one who put in the time. I'm the one who put in the effort. I'm the one who put in the hours, booking the shows, booking the talent, making sure everybody got there, to now having possibly rivalry of the year with him at Ultimate Redemption and a very, very personal story to now being the VTW World Champion. I mean, all I have done is successfully go up in VTW this year. There hasn't been any hiccups except maybe one or two little ones, but we don't count those. And
I'm not going to challenge you on them because you are the real boss man, Aaron Jones, and I've watched you a lot in the ring, especially in DBW of late. And there's
mhm,
somebody I know that you squared off with and you kind of called out at the beginning of their season last year. But
mhm.
I am certainly not going to challenge you on those things. But what I will say though is that how do you feel you've evolved then with the season completing in VTW and then also with the name change? Because obviously, I've got a chance to watch you wrestle, and I would be upfront in saying that I really know you a lot more in DBW. Obviously, VTW, yes, I've certainly followed the product a lot more the last few months as more guys have come on, but I really know you. Like, I know the style that you bring to the table in DBW, but I'm kind of curious. And how do you feel you evolved as the season went on to where you at this place right now where you hold the company's title? How do you feel you evolved throughout the season?
And Tom, with what you're saying there, with how you've mainly watched me in DBW and you've seen how I work there, it's a completely different style there than
Yep,
anywhere else. At
sure.
DBW, I'm very much a fun-loving guy. I like to have fun. I'm not there to put on the five-star match. I
No.
am there to a lot of times be behind the scenes and try to help these younger talents
I
to
did notice
learn.
that, by the way. I wasn't going to say
Yeah.
anything, but I did notice there was times that we'd see you on the Thursday night Thunder Punch shows. You'd be somewhere in
Mhm,
the back, and you'd be
mhm.
kind of right by almost the curtain. So I did kind of notice. I wasn't going to say anything, but I mean, I did notice that you obviously have a certain, maybe different way that you use your experiences to try to help their ever growing roster for sure.
That's the main reason I started going there, is to help out this younger talent, to help out the guys behind the scenes. I mean, I went up to DBW and didn't even wrestle for a couple months, where I just kept going to hang out. I mean, I love those guys. But
Sure.
then if you look at my progression in VTW, where I'm one of the most despicable men you've ever seen in your
I
life,
noticed it. I was
I
like,
I mean, I will walk through the curtain
you
and I'll
kill your
find
own family, I think, at times in VTW, from what I've seen, Mr. Aaron Jones. I mean,
I
I don't. That's why I said I do not want to cross you. You remind me of one of these guys in my local neighborhood that hangs out in the bar and kind of sits by the corner in a darkened room. And like you'd probably want to like punch her. And you also could probably be one of those guys in either the old Sylvester Stallone movie Over the Top or in Patrick Swayze's Roadhouse. God bless his soul, Patrick Swayze.
well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. One of my favorite things to do in this world is punch somebody in the mouth.
I can see
Uh,
that.
and talking about like basically beating up people I care about. If Chase Wakefield keeps getting in my way in VTW, we're gonna have an issue.
Well, I'm gonna
Even
bring
though
him up in a little while for sure.
even
I'm
though
gonna
he
bring...
keeps saying we're best friends. I mean, he's an all right guy, but he's kind of like a flea on your backside.
I'm gonna get to him for sure. I know that's gonna be a topic of discussion in a little while for sure.
But also, I've spent the last 6 years on the independent circuit, and over the last 6 years, pretty well everywhere I've ever been, I've been a babyface. I have been a fan favorite. I've been somebody that the fans have always been able to connect to, and I've always wanted to draw that attention from them and show them, hey, I'm just a regular guy, but I'm living out my dream. And now I've got the chance to do something completely different and almost take things from a personal life and personal experiences that allow me to become this much meaner character, this much more serious character, but then still travel 5 hours to DBW and go up there and just have fun. But now, also, DBW has allowed me to wrestle for the Hub City Championship. I have won it,
I'm gonna get to a lot of that in
and
DBW. I'm gonna get to
and
a lot of that. Sure.
I've already told everybody, now I'm not going to come up there and be fun loving Aaron. You put a title on me. I mean, I'm coming up there to work now, which means I'm coming to outwork everybody. And that's not
Oh,
something that I show, but sometimes I work circles around you because I want to, not because I have to.
well, I'm gonna get to the match for sure in a little while with you, and I guess we'll call him now Rock Hard Brandon Caselli, almost like the three
Ooh.
faces of Caselli. We'll definitely get to that in a little while, but
Mhm.
I want to go back to something, and I promise to the people in the chat, I say hi to you, and I will get to you in a few minutes. But you said something about you've been in the independent scene now for the past 6 years, and I'm
Mhm.
curious in a different way because I do have different guys that come on throughout, not just in DBW, but also in different places around the different scenes, and I'm curious. What do you learn from being in the independents that you take with you when you go to places like DBW or come back home to VTW? What do you apply from those situations that you're in?
So, one of the number one things I learned when I joined the Indies is to shut up and listen. I mean, you're going to be in there with a lot of guys who have done this for a lot longer time than you, and I always tell young guys, and I mean, I may get heat for this, but listen to everything somebody has to say, but you don't have to acknowledge what they have to say. Thank them for what they're telling you, but sometimes they might not be right. Sometimes they may not be right for you, but then sometimes you could take that advice and run with it and be incredibly successful. And that was one of the huge things I took when I first started. But also, I try to take my 6 years of knowledge of making mistakes. I have been at the bottom of cards, and I have been the heavyweight champion of multiple companies. I mean, I've held an independent championship in almost every company I've ever worked for, and that means the world to me that a company trusted me enough. So, with me being in this for 6 years and getting to live out my dreams, I do like to give those young guys that advice of don't make the same mistakes I did, or don't do some of the things that I did that
Although I
ended
think
up
it
hurting
seems
me.
like you're doing pretty well, Aaron. I mean, listen, you've been a champion in multiple promotions. You've been an independent guy that you've certainly earned respect. So, in some ways, I might respectfully say that I would want to be like Aaron Jones. I'm not going to do the Chase Wakefield on you, but you've certainly, had a lot of success. And I guess then I'll ask you a follow up on that, and then we'll get to comments in a second. Because we are here with the reigning defending DBW Hub City champion, Texas Ground Zero Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion for over 1,100 days, also the brand new VTW Champion of the World, Aaron Jones. You can follow him on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter at Aaron Jones Pro. Support this man. He's going to be back in the ring actually coming up in January 13th for Redemption Championship Wrestling. And it's a tag team match where both guys don't know who their partners are going to be. It's going to be him on one side, Aaron Jones, and then Corey Edsel. And these guys both don't actually know who their tag team partners are. We're going to talk about that in a little while for sure. But, you go back then and you have this success in the independents. And then let me ask you in a larger way, do you give guys advice unsolicitedly? Because, I speak with a lot of wrestlers all over the world. I do speak with pros, I speak with independents, backyarders, undergrounders, Mickey Mouse wrestlers, whatever you want to call it at this point. I just say all wrestling matters. That is with the new slogan of Sportswire,
Yes.
all wrestling matters. So that's kind of our thing. I want to put that right out there. But do you feel like you maybe now unsolicitedly give people advice, or do you see yourself maybe as a locker room leader now?
Uh, Especially when it comes to DBW, I definitely consider myself a locker room leader. Uh, I'm also not one of those people who are just going to walk up and give you advice. I don't feel like I want to overstep boundaries when it comes to certain people. Certain people might want it, some don't.
Sure.
If you don't want it, I don't want to waste your time. But if you're willing to come up to me and ask, I will give you all the attention in the world. I have a group chat with 3 young DBW talents, and all of which have been on this show, and they send me their matches. They
Oh,
send me
God.
pictures. They send me different things. I want to work on moves. I want to do this. I want to do
Sure.
that. And if they're willing to ask me, I'm going to be willing to give them the time in return out of respect. When it comes to the indies, I mean, I just do my own thing. Some people know that they can come up and talk to me, but I really just try to mainly stay to myself, figure out what I'm doing that night, figure out my matches. And then, I mean, there's some companies that I go to, and some people don't even know me. And then there's some companies I go to, and everybody's like, thank God Aaron's here.
That really sounds like, in a way, almost a lot of stuff I do in England. There's some companies that guys go to, and they're like, they could be recognized in the neighborhood. Other places, they're like, who? And so you have that, so almost like, in a way, I think I said this on one of the shows recently, almost like it's like Baskin Robbins, 32 flavors. You just don't know what you're going to get at this point. But I have so many comments. I want to say hello to people here. First of all, let me say hello to my guest Saturday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time, the big man of DBW, calls himself Big Tex, and he went up there against Mr. Judgment, a man that I know you know pretty well, and he came a little short, but he impressed himself. Certainly, big shout out to Big Tex.
What up, Tex? I'm a huge fan of Big Tex, by the way.
I like him.
Sweetheart of a guy, and it was my pleasure to be able to referee that match. So, great guy.
Yeah, between the three of you guys, it would almost be like I'm surprised that ring will ever be able to go back up in March.
It won't. It actually is completely broke.
I'm glad that somebody finally mentioned that on Sportswire Radio, because I've been saying over the past 5 years I'm doing this, when will we finally get the moment where somebody admits the ring broke? So I have all these big guys that come on, and I'm finally like, wow, okay, somebody's gonna finally tell us on there, yeah, the ring broke. There's one wrestler that I'm close with that actually wrestled a match that the ring actually broke. I don't want to say who it was, because I'll have shots fired at me. There's already enough shots being fired at me, but I'm finally glad that somebody would admit that. But speaking,
sometimes the boards just jump up and shift sideways, and it's not good.
Oh, listen, I've heard that through the grapevine. I'm glad that you admitted it on air. But speaking of big men that I like, and I want to give him actually a big shout out, because I wouldn't be actually covering places like DBW and VTW if it wasn't for this man. He was the long reigning World Extreme Champion for just about a year, Mr. Roland Havoc. He says, Aaron, real boss man Jones, salute my friend. Happy New Year to you, Mr. Havoc. And it's been a while since you've been on Sportswire, so I hope that I can see you before the season in DBW kicks off. And you certainly had quite a war with him at the start of the season, and you called him out, and it was a great match. And I hope to see you guys square off again one day if the cards would align.
I would love to either wrestle Roland Havoc again or even team with him, just to have some fun. When I got asked to come up to DBW at the beginning of the year,
yep,
Brian Phillips, the owner of DBW, he asked me, "Who would you like to work?" And I took a look at that roster, and the first person I named was, "Give me this big guy in denim." And I didn't know what his name was, and I was like, "Give me Roland Havoc." And I remember going to some of their yard shows before they went indoors, became an underground fed. And I saw Roland as a manager, and I thought he had more charisma than anybody I'd ever seen.
I've had one twice that he just randomly just started drinking like a whole bunch of beers, and just like he basically made himself welcome as a guest. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah,
that's Roland.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? You can keep coming on Sportswire, whatever you want. He was like, I like you, and I want you to cover this company I work for, DBW. I'm like, yes, sir, Mr. Havoc. Whatever you want. You're Roland Havoc. You seem like you're having a good time, and I want to have a good time with you too. And anything you say, sir, I'm gonna do. And please keep coming on the show.
If he plays his cards right, in 2 weeks he can come down to North Carolina and we'll have a drink together.
Well, I mean, maybe that'll be up to Mr. Havoc to decide. I'm sure he wouldn't turn down a beer. Want to say hello to my good buddy, Mr. Ron Franklin, out there in Pennsylvania. He says, another Aaron Jones. Good to meet you, bud. Yes, different sport, but this one's a champion. That's for sure. Sorry to disappoint you on that one, Ron. But this one,
yeah, I get that comparison a whole lot, but I'm very different.
First of all, you're different because you're a champion. You hold not one, but 2, 3 championships. So I'm going to look at you as the real Aaron Jones and the only Aaron Jones that I care that's worth any relevancy. Sorry, Ron.
Nobody cares about that fake sport football anyway.
Oh, listen, Sportswire, as I continue to say, it's all wrestling that matters. All wrestling. So at this point, that's what we're here for. Speaking of gentlemen that said a few things about you Monday night, a man that has certainly made his presence felt of late in DBW. He's also in EBW. His name is Mr. Jackson Saber. He is the Salisbury psychopath, and he says this should be interesting. Yes, it will definitely be interesting. I will certainly circle back to you. Want to say hello to my buddy Michael Blackheart, whose father-in-law, if you don't know, is actually Festus Davis. He is the senior official in XCW. XCW, very similar to me in how I look at DBW, VTW, the gold standard of certainly of this sport and everything else that we do here. And I have XCW coverage at 9:30 with DJ Wahlberg, who also is interesting because he actually hunts paranormal. So I'm going to talk about his wrestling career and also hunting paranormal. But I guess it's Michael, bro, because Michael has really been one of my biggest champions over the past year. Talk about your belt collection because it is pretty cool.
Dude, this isn't even part of them. Like, I have a ton more. This is the original VTW titles, the world title, the YouTube, and the tag.
Oh, wow.
Currently sitting right here on my elliptical is the current VTW World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, that I could see. I could kind of make that out a little bit, so that I figured.
If you, obviously you can't see, I got my computer up. I have the WCW World Heavyweight Champion to my left, signed by Ricky Steamboat. I have an NWA World title, an ECW title, and a white strapped Intercontinental signed by Cody Rhodes. And then there's I used to work for an independent company called ACCW.
Yes, so that I knew. That I knew.
They went under new ownership and did a rebrand. And when the company shut down, I was the first ever Apple City champion, which was their mid-card title. And
hey, title's a title at this sport. I look at everything. You hold the champion, like you said. I agree with you. I don't care if I hold the floor championship. It's a championship.
I mean, I was the first person to ever hold it. I was the first person to ever hold it twice, and I think I was the second longest reign.
Oh, wow.
But when the company shut down, the promoter actually walked up to me and gave me the belt as a gift.
Oh, wow.
So I have that belt in my living room currently.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you play your cards right at the end of the show, I might ask you something that you also might also add to your collection. So if you play your cards right, stay tuned for that. And Michael, thank you. And by the way, real quick, you should meet Fletch, because Fletch, the owner and founder of XCW, when he came on the show a couple weeks ago, he had like his belt collection, and I literally think he might have every single belt like ever in existence. I mean, you have to see it. It's on my YouTube. It's on my Instagram at the Sports Report 2021. YouTube at Sportzwire Radio 65.7. Fletch, he literally, and Michael knows because Michael's been to his house. He must have like 500 belts. I mean, literally, he must have spent like $1 million on belts. I mean,
I'm going to check that out the second this is over.
Yeah, I'm telling you, just look up, just see the belt. And I think I asked him at some point in the interview. Michael knows because he watched it, and I was like, wow. I was like, how many people ask you, do you like want to go get a tour? And he kind of laughed and he talked to me about it off the air. Big Tex wants to say Chase Wakefield is not his best friend. I'm not saying I'm not his best friend, but we do have a good time hanging out.
I mean, Big Tex is not wrong. I mean, I have a great time seeing Tex. And I mean, Chase Wakefield's not my best friend. I tell him that on a daily.
Well, I mean, so I guess you're not going to be wearing then that shirt he made out that says, best friend.
Nope.
So not gonna be wearing it.
If he was my best friend, he would know what size shirt I wore. And he didn't get the right size.
Well, I was actually in the interview. Actually, it's really because of Chase you're on the air. But I was
100%.
I'll be honest. If it wasn't for Chase, I wouldn't be speaking to you. Because I look at you, yes, Mr. Jones. I would figure you're a very busy man, and I really wouldn't think I'd really have the opportunity to speak with you because you are Aaron Jones. But I did ask Chase, are you sure that Mr. Jones thinks of you the same way? Are you sure? Do you see things? Is something like out there that convinces you? And he certainly had his opinions on it, but, that's certainly Chase Wakefield. Also want to say hello back to Mr. Havoc. Could say the same. Always a fun time when we hang out. Yes, sir. Also, Big Tech says you're over as fill in the blanks in DBW. I want to say hello to Mr. Austin James. Aaron Jones is the real boss man of wrestling. And speaking of, I got a lot more comments. It's really starting to warm up here. So thank you for that to the people tuning in. And speaking of people, by the way, before you may say something, I do have to say I like this man. This man has promoted Sportswire on DBW shows. He's going into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame January the 29th, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. He is the global champion, a counterpart of yours. His name is the It Factor Cyrus, and despite what Mr. Saber might say, the book of Cyrus is going to continue for chapters and chapters to come. The man has a stiff right hand. Felt it pretty good, but no worries. I keep receipts, although I do have all the respect for you. One day our paths will cross. # champ versus champ. What do you say?
I mean, he says I keep receipts. First off, how you give out receipts. You don't keep receipts. And keeping a receipt, that would be me.
Well, it's tax season. Maybe he's keeping receipts of like how many times you
Well, I can tell you that I hit him a couple times in that Rumble.
I saw that.
Cyrus I have now known 4 years
Yes.
and have never got to wrestle him. And hopefully in this 2024 season at DBW, maybe like you said, champ versus champ, global champ, Hub City champ. If I ever get my title, by the way, it's still not at DBW. The former champion Caleb Matthews
Yes.
still has
Unfortunately,
not
it was an
shipped the
issue. Yes.
title. So I just want to say publicly here to send the title back to DBW. I would love to have it on my shoulder. But if Cyrus wants champ versus champ, I'd love to do it in 2024.
Well, I don't want to get into the issue of you getting the title. That's obviously an issue with management that they have to give you the title. So it would be unfair for me to kind of walk right into, especially my last week on Sportswire. But what I would say is that I would love to see you and Cyrus square off in any type of show, whether it's Thursday Night Thunder Punch, whether it's a World War type show, a Merry Mayhem, whatever type of show it is, because that would definitely be a main event. And I think in a lot of ways, if I could say this, if you don't mind, a lot of these new kids on the block or youngins have certainly, they've chimed in and they've said different things about Cyrus. But when somebody like yourself, sir, comes onto Sportswire and sort of talks with Cyrus, this is where, to me, it gets serious. This is, to me, where it's like, okay, now we go mano a mano. Now we go and say, okay, these guys can stand next to each other. Now we're going to have a Donnybrook. Now we're going to have a slobber knocker, as JR would say. This would be a main event. This would be a match. This wouldn't be somebody that would have to say, well, he's old, he's past his prime, and blah, 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 blah. No, this would be a true test of champions, a true test of main eventers. And certainly that would be a match I think would be worth a lot of money to see. So certainly, yep. Yes, sir.
I mean, these youngins want to say he's old and past his prime. Honestly, the way I look at it is if I'm watching DBW today, Cyrus has come leaps and bounds from what I used to see him as. This is the best he's ever looked in the ring. He has put in the work. He has put his foot down when it comes to, I want to show everybody why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
He's a former DBW champion.
Absolutely.
I think he's a former Anarchy champion or
Yes.
World Extreme.
World Extreme.
Current global. I mean, you can't say, oh, he's old and washed up. He's proven to all those youngins who doesn't have that championship on their shoulder that they can talk the way they want to, but at the end of the day, they could step up to him and challenge him for it, or they can just keep sitting there.
Yeah, and you know what? And listen, and I want to say this, and I love all the people that come onto Sportswire from DBW. Thank you for coming on. But the facts of the matter are, is some of these guys have had more interviews on Sportswire than wins they had this past season. Cyrus right now is on the best. Listen, this is a fact. This is not a knock. This is a legitimate fact. Cyrus right now is on, I think, the best run he's had in a long time. Watching him in the ring in the second half of the season, I mean, he's a champion for a reason. He's
completely agree
to continue to with that run he had in 2023 to further extend it in 2024. So, you and him, though, would be different. You and him, certainly that's a match that I think a lot of people say, okay, that's even. That's a match where both guys bring different things to the table. That would be something I think a lot of people would say, okay, you know what? That's 50-50. That's where one guy doesn't have to talk smack about one another. Those guys are just going to go out there and just have an old-fashioned match, and whoever wins, wins. So that's just what I want to say about that. I got a lot of comments here because I spoke too much. Management wants to say, I do that often. Our awesome Hub City champion of DBW. Yes, management, get this man the championship. Just I don't know how you do it. I don't know how. But find this man that championship. Even if you have to make the title, create it. I don't know. Send him something. Just make sure he gets it.
Hey, Roland, if you're still listening, we'll just jump in the car. Like we said in the chat earlier, we'll just go get it.
Well, now I have not one, but two comments from somebody that you very briefly mentioned. His name is Mr. Judgment. He's, of course, the DBW world champion. He's been, like you, a very, very impressive big man throughout 2023. May I bring up what he has to say towards you? Would you like me to?
Go ahead.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me do that. Mr. Judgment would like to say, well, if it isn't my arch nemesis, Aaron Filthbag Jones, exclamation point. Mr. Judgment also wants to say, why do you insist on reffing my matches? You are a glutton for punishment, and wouldn't you know it, gluttony is a sin. What do you want to say to that?
So, arch nemesis,
yes.
Right? This goes back to many, many years.
Yes.
On
Best in the Yard 4, yep.
Best in the Yard 4, my 21st birthday.
Happy birthday.
Myself, Mr. Judgment, stepped in the ring in the main event for the first time ever, where I defeated him. And then years and years later, at VTW insert name here. No, I'm not telling you to insert a name here, people. That's the name of the show. Insert name here. You got a victory over myself at a time where nobody else could. So right now we're 1-1, pal. And you want to talk your smack, you want to say I'm your arch nemesis, you're right, I am. But last time I checked, I had other people in front of you that I've had to worry about. So once it's that time, I will gladly look you dead in your eyes again and tell you that you can only be second best to the real boss man.
Ooh. If I could for a second. Now, obviously, I'm not good at many things, but it sounds like to me it would be one for you, one for Judgment, which would mean the rubber match would decide really who's the better match, who's the better wrestler at this point. But the facts are is that, all these different people have come on the show the past, 5 or 6 months in DBW and said, yeah, I'm going to beat Mr. Judgment. Yeah, I can take him on. Yeah, give me a shot. And the facts are, whether it's his own son, the Blaze Ace Christian, whether it's at the time, the Mauler, Brandon Castelli, big shout out to Brandon Castelli. They're obviously your opponent for the Hub City Championship match, or even the likes of Big Tex. I mean, I can go on. Corey Graves was on here talking about his memories with Mr. Judgment. But, when you, Sir Aaron Jones, talk, and you talk about Mr. Judgment, it's almost like, you know what? With all due respect to those different individuals, I kind of push them to the side because you and Mr. Judgment, that's a true mano a mano. That's a true 50-50 even. Flip a coin. Maybe times he wins, 5 out of 10 times you win. Your clothesline, your sheer ability to just go out there and beat people up, his ring set for his size, his agility, what he can do on his own, his quickness, it's almost like in a lot of ways, you guys offset each other's strengths, and that's why that would be a real dream match. Now, obviously, I know years ago you squared off in DBW, you squared off in VTW, but right now in the year 2024, I look at you're in the best run of your career right now currently. He's in the best run of his career currently. I think right now in 2024, this would be the one match anybody should want to see, and it should happen as soon as it can.
I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. You say mono e mono.
Yes, sir.
50%, 50%. Flip of a coin, 5 and 5.
Pretty much.
But you also have to look at it as Mr. Judgment, amplified heavyweight champion.
Yes, he is.
VTW
February 24th, they're back in action, by the way.
VTW YouTube champion. DBW World Heavyweight Champion.
Yes,
Aaron Jones, Ground Zero Texas Heavyweight Champion. DBW Hub City Champion. VTW World Heavyweight Champion. It's like our career paths have just continued. And he's got to be careful when it comes to that.
You can look at it and say that, maybe that means then somebody has to be declared the winner. Somebody, in a way, maybe even to say that it's not big enough for the two of you, whether it's in DBW or in VTW. Maybe we have to see really that at the end of the day, you guys, only one of you can stand over one another.
You're right. And it could either be the so-called mortal, Aaron Jones, or it could be the prophet, the final boss.
Yes, the prophet of purgatory. Yes, the final boss.
Prophet of purgatory, the final boss, versus the real boss man. And I think once it happens, because God, trust me, it will happen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like these other guys who have come on your show and say, I'm going to win. I'm going to beat him. I'm going to do this.
But you don't have to, but time out. You don't have to do that. Yes. See, that's it. See, all these guys, and God bless them. I love them coming on the platform. They give us something to talk about. But if you watch DBW this season or watch these different names that came on here, they aren't in the same class or category as yourself and Judgment. This is a real match. This is a pro wrestling match. This is a pro wrestling match that would be a main event in different places. Like, I don't know, Amplified Wrestling, let's say RCR, you could name a place. This is where it's almost like, you know what, with all due respect to those different people that have come on Sportswire Radio, and I hope they keep coming on, and shout outs to all of them, you in Judgment, it's almost like, if you remember when you were growing up, you were in a schoolyard and everybody would kind of like clear out the yard and let the two of you guys just go out there and duke it out. This is exactly what you in Judgment would be. Not even you and Cyrus, you in Judgment. Cyrus, we love Cyrus, but you know what? Forget about that in a second. What I would want to see, now this is just me, right? I'm going to speak freely here, and management can take this any way they want. As the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio, if it was up to me and I was the owner of DBW, Dominant Breakout Wrestling, I would make sure that my main event storyline throughout 2024 would be the real boss man, Aaron Jones, in one corner, and the other one, Mr. Judgment, the final boss, the Prophet of Purgatory. That's it. That's the storyline. That's it.
I agree.
Yeah, you agree with that?
I completely agree with that.
You think Mr. Judgment would agree with that?
I don't know whether he'd agree with it or not. I'm willing to take that step. Is he?
That's up to him. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Judgment will be back on the show in the next few weeks. And
to answer his other question, why I insist reffing his matches, management keeps asking me to. By the way, pal, I just do it for fun.
So I have a very simple answer why. Here's the reason why you referee his matches, because there's nobody else out there that could be able to be counting to 3 without being afraid they're going to get thrown out of the ring. Whereas he knows that, he really can't push you around like a twig, like some other people that might be a referee potentially, whoever that might be. I mean, he would look at you and I'm sure he would certainly say, yeah, okay, I'm going to let him be. I can't push him around. I can't boss man him around. I can't bully him around. I can't do a one-man revolution against him. I can't certainly say a sign of the cross against him, because he'll come right back up. He'll look me in the eye, and you know what? He'll hit me with a clothesline that I haven't seen since who knows when, and maybe I'll never see again. I might not get up. That's the reason why you ref his matches. Not because management tells you to. It's because at the end of the day, there's nobody else in that company that could count 1, 2, 3. That's why. That's very simple. It's a very simple answer to that. I mean, even I would know that. But before I get to comments, if you want to follow us here on Sportswire Radio, I would hope you do so here, because we are on YouTube at Sportswire Radio, 6579 backspace streams. And if you want to see our past, present, and future shows here, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We're getting a lot of supporters of late. If you want to see past, present, and future shows, when it comes to DBW, VTW, other places, check us out. And also 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have an internet radio station called sportswireradio.org. And if you have a podcast, if you want to play live music, if you want to make any suggestions, let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram at the Sports Report 2021, Facebook at Tom Bryce, Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and I'll give you the opportunity to be heard. And you can play your own shows, do your own thing on here. We provide a free internet radio station for the people. I handle all the maintenance, all the engineering, all the costs. I take care of all that because it's my way of giving back to the community. And if you want it to be heard, let me know. Also, we have a blog where we write about our different people that are coming on the show, and you can check us out anytime at tumblr.com at Sportswire Radio. And we'll have more coverage here at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time with DJ Wolbert of Unholy of XCW. So stay tuned for that. Also, I'll be back tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 p.m. British Standard Time with DJ B of Cutlery Championship Wrestling. Going to talk all things the future of Cutlery Championship Wrestling, whether it's Prince Dagan, the Underground Heavyweight Champion, or the Hardcore Carnage Champion there, Jam Dog, who's all the way, by the way, coming on the show Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, or James Barris, our new member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame on January 25th, or even the Tribal Cheese, Big Cheese Logan. I mean, all that stuff we're going to talk about, all that and some here. But right now we are here with Mr. Aaron Jones, the real boss news. Get this, the Texas Ground Zero Heavyweight Champion, the DBW Hub City Champion, and the VTW Champion of the World. I have a ton of comments here. Let me get to them or else I'll forget. And Jackson Saber wants to say, guess we all have collections. You've got belts. I've got swords. Do you know anybody who has a sword collection, by the way?
No.
Maybe I'll move on from that comment. I was trying to be funny. I want to say hello to our buddies out there in the state of Ohio. DKW, obviously, Darkron and Matthew Forsaken going to be inducted into our Hall of Fame on the 6th of February at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Guys, how you doing? Want to say hello. Mr. Cyrus wants to say, pardon me for still feeling the effects of that shot. At least he admitted he still felt the effects. You got to give him that. Mr. Havoc wants to say, Aaron, we may have to arrange something like that, meaning beers and laughing out loud. Mr. Judgment, speaking of him, you and I have crossed paths many times. Our biblical chapter is far from over, mortal.
I mean, keep writing our story.
Okay,
Just keep writing it down. And
well, I'll tell you what. I know Judgment's going to be on here before the season. I'm sure I'll ask him about these things, and I'm sure he'll give me an answer. And, we'll see if management does the right things. Speaking of people I want to get to in a few minutes, above we're back in VTW. How you doing there, social media administrators? I hope that you're doing well, and thank you for tuning in. Yes.
This is our wonderful, wonderful social media admin. His name is Boss the Sauce Bigsby. Phenomenal guy. He does all of our editing, all of our commentary, along with Orville Miguel Galel, OMG, and our wonderful friend Roy Farnsworth, who is invisible.
Okay, I want to ask you about that because, I know I've brought this up with Chase, and I know I've brought it up with the Blaze Ace Christian especially. Mm-hmm. I watch a lot of wrestling in the underground, the semi-pro, Mickey Mouse, whatever you want to call it at this point, right? But VTW, what impresses me most about VTW is two things. Number one, the editing. I think that the VTW, I look at VTW shows, and I've said this many times, so please quote me on this. VTW shows actually look better than many pro wrestling companies that put their products out there on YouTube. And on top of that, your guys' announce team is just it's like through the roof. I mean, you're lucky. Listen, I even covered college basketball here on Sportswire, and there are college basketball announce teams that actually don't have the kind of announce team that you guys have in VTW. It's just almost like the flow is phenomenal. Everything in terms of telling the story about the matches, the move set, kind of just the overall kind of visual layout of that. I mean, VTW, honestly. And I'm not just saying because you're here. I've, again, said it on the record many times on Sportswire. I mean, VTW is ahead of the game. I don't even know if I consider you guys an underground company because of the fact that everything that you guys do out there in terms of just the announce team with the editing. I mean, do you want to talk about that? Because I think to me that's very, very fascinating.
I mean, I can talk about this all day, but we'll kind of keep it short. This is something that we actually, when we started VTW back, we said if we're going to do it, we're going to give it our 100% in everything we do. In-ring storylines, editing, match graphics, everything. And I don't mind to pull back the curtain at all. Tyler Aiken, the Gooba, does a phenomenal job. Does a phenomenal job at editing VTW. We have multiple camera angles, and I mean, he will sit down for hours and he will make sure that show is spot on perfect. And, like you said, you wouldn't really consider us an underground.
Not at all. Not based off that. Not what I watch. Because I told you, I watch, I know not everybody has the time or covers these companies like I do. And you guys are at least on that part, the announcing and the overall layout of the product, blow almost everybody out of the water.
I mean, most everybody who's in VTW came right off the indies. And I mean, we all yarded together in the beginning. We moved on to the indies and we decided we wanted to go back and do something that we loved and that we have full creative freedom over, to where we can really show our creative sides. So that's very much how we get a lot of our stuff out. I mean, if we want to be creative, we come up with these storylines. We have storylines that are built. Like you look at the storyline at Christmas Chaos with Merrick. Yep. This is a callback from 2016.
I know you. That's how we ended this season, basically.
Once again, our phenomenal commentary team was able to pick up on that and tell you that story in a very quick, short amount of time. And the 3-man commentary team, Orville Miguel Galel and Boss the Sauce Bigsby and Roy Farnsworth, they do a phenomenal job week in and week out of making sure that our commentary is crisp, clean, and perfect.
No, that's such an important thing because, there are some companies and, I love them. XCW, I think, is the only company that I would say with certainty that has on par the announce team, because what Blackheart and JJ does, Blackheart's obviously been a 20-year yarder. He also does karaoke and stand up. So he's like a total pro at speaking. And JJ and him, they flow off each other. But realistically speaking, every company that we work with on Sportswire at this level, not a comparison to what you guys do. You know, I could watch you guys and I could watch the announce team and not even look at the video, not even look at my YouTube, because I actually watch you guys, which I think somebody yelled at me for this the other day. I won't say who off the air, but I actually watch you guys on my Xbox. What I do is I put my YouTube on Xbox and I watch everybody's matches. So if you're ever wondering, I get a chance to actually watch you guys on TV, all the products that we talk about here in Sportswire, and I could actually not even look. I could put my eyes closed, just hear your announce team, and I could know basically visually and conceptually what I watched and won't be able to talk about. That's to me how good of a job you guys do there in BTW. I want to say that right up front.
And I mean, like you said, you can close your eyes completely.
I can.
Just by listening to our commentary team, not only will you know the moves, you'll know the story of the match, and you'll get the progression of what's happening. And like I say, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I mean, I have my strengths in wrestling and I have my weaknesses. And commentary is one thing that I say I'm staying far away from, especially when we have three of the best who do it.
Oh, for sure. Look, you got it's like the voices almost like they were like born to be announcers. You know, I remember as a kid, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. People say, you know, you should be an announcer. People say, you know, you should, the way you talk. And then it wasn't until about 5 years ago after I, did different things that I got into this. But, there are some people that are born with it, and your announce team in VTW, without a shadow of a doubt, are certainly born to do it. That's why you guys are such a phenomenal product. And I want to talk about it for a few minutes coming up here in VTW. So obviously, you win this title, you put that ring on. We see Cynic come out, and then I guess Chase Wakefield's in the background. I still don't know what to make of Chase Wakefield, but then Merrick comes out, a man that you have history with, and I'm assuming that's where we start the season off when that comes. And talk to me about that, because there was a look on your eyes. You told everybody to clear and get out of the ring. Then all of a sudden, we see right out from that curtain to end the show is Merrick. And we see that stare down. And I'm used to watching you now, and I didn't see you the way you were in your eyes when you saw Merrick come out. Talk to us about that and maybe what's to come when the season resumes here later this year.
Look, Tom, I'm going to be completely and utterly honest with you here. Merrick he's something different.
Oh, and I saw it. I was terrified of him. I was terrified of him.
I mean, you could see, like, I'm almost lost for words right here as I'm talking about it.
First time tonight, 45 minutes. First time tonight, Aaron Jones.
And, I mean, let's be honest here. I'm the boss man of VTW. I'm the one who calls the talent. I'm the one who books the show. I'm the one who gets everybody to come. And I have no idea. I didn't let the guy know, hey, you need to get this song. I didn't tell him to hit the music. I'm thinking there's a malfunction. And then all of a sudden, bang, this guy's walking through the curtain, a ghost from my past. And while Chase Wakefield, who was there, is in the ring, and my good friend Nikki, no longer known as Cynic, we don't call him that anymore.
Yes,
I decided to
tell him. He's been on the show before. We know him well.
Yeah, yes. But see, like he keeps doing the Cynic thing, and let's be honest, it was a failure. It was a complete and utter failure, and I decided to tell him.
You had your issues with it. That's what I know. That I know.
I'm just going to tell him, look, be the Nikki I know you are, and now you see exactly who he is. This is him 24/7. So I'm glad to have the real Nikki with me. And when I hear that music stop, I don't know what's about to happen. And I tell them to clear the ring, hoping maybe they'll be smart enough to run it, whoever comes out. And they didn't, because they're just as mesmerized as I was. They thought, what is this? And I looked Chase Wakefield dead in his eyes, and I said, what's the deal with this? Who's doing this? As if he knows, which we all know he doesn't know. He doesn't know much. But
yeah, I know Mr. Wakefield well. That's certainly, he's been kind of the running joke on Sportswire these past 6 months.
He is a running joke in general.
No comment on that.
But just the thought of this 2024 season, I already have so many targets on my back. I have D-Lock wanting his world
Yeah.
title
Oh,
back.
for sure.
I cheated ecstatic out of
I was
winning the
going.
world title once Nikki Chooch slipped that ring on my finger and I punched him right in the jaw. God, it was such a good moment. And then I injured Zach Daniels and took him out of VTW by snapping his ankle to the point he couldn't even get up onto his feet to continue to wrestle me. So I won the Avery Hope Memorial. So now I have him coming after me. I have obviously Mr. Judgment Asher Christ coming after me, as you hear on here. I have so many targets on my back, and now I have to deal
Although
with
I
this
think Chase
anomaly.
Wakefield, though, is going to have to deal with him, at least Asher Christ in VTW, because I think Mr. Wakefield has something of the possession of Mr. Christ. And knowing what we saw the last time those two were in the ring in VTW, something tells me that instead of Mr. Wakefield finding that thing in a box, we might be shipping Mr. Wakefield off in a box somewhere, and you won't have to worry about whether you are friends with him or not. That's just my opinion.
I really don't have much comment on that. I don't think that's too bad of an idea.
Well, you know what? We've had some interesting things on Sportswire. But 2 weeks ago we had a guy Obey who's in GTS Grimm's Toy Shop and other different places. And he pulled out a gun on the air, and basically you were kind of like, yeah, okay. If Asher Christ puts Chase Wakefield in the box, I'm not so mad about that. So I guess let me ask you a follow-up on that. Do you feel like your moment was robbed of you when Merrick came out? Because shouldn't have been the season should have ended with you basically being on top, regaining the VTW world title, and the successful season. All of a sudden, Merrick comes out. Do you feel like your moment was robbed from you?
Oh, it was more than robbed. It was taken away from me. It was chained up in a dark, dark alleyway and just left there to die. That's what my moment was. It was just taken from me by this anomaly known as Merrick. When at the end of Christmas Chaos, I should have been standing there with all the lights shining on me, with everybody cheering me. And they may have sounded like boos, but we all know they were cheers. We all know these people love Aaron Jones at the end of the day. I should have been standing there holding up that VTW World Heavyweight Championship with Nikki to my one side and sadly Chase Wakefield on the other. Telling them to get out of the ring and me celebrating what has always rightfully been mine. And yeah, well, Merrick.
So I guess it's crazy for me to say, as we're speaking with Aaron Jones, who of course is the Texas Ground Zero heavyweight champion, the DBW Hub City champion of the world, and the VTW world champion. You can follow him at Aaron Jones Pro on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Make sure you follow this man. But is it fair for me to say that your Christmas and your New Year was a little bit maybe robbed from you, and you didn't celebrate the way you would have wanted because now you know that Merrick is back, and he kind of there's this cloud that hangs around you when we see the season resume here in VTW? Is that fair for me to ask?
There was no celebrating, Tom. None.
That's why I asked.
I didn't celebrate my win. I didn't celebrate Christmas with my family. New Year's, I was asked to go out with my friends. Yes, people, I have friends. I was asked to go out to my friends at these bars, and what did I do? I sat at home and I drank by myself until it was time to go to sleep because Merrick's going to show up somewhere, right? I'm going to be at a bar. I'm going to find me a good-looking woman, right? I'm going to be talking to her. I'm going to be giving her this confidence. I'm going to be wearing my cowboy hat. She's going to be looking her the real boss man of professional wrestling and the real boss man of her life. And then, boom, I'm going to look up the bartender, and it's going to be Merrick. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Who's going to be standing in line?
It would certainly kill my thrill. Sure, I would agree with that. I wouldn't disagree
regardless,
with that.
Whatever I do, boom, Merrick. I'm going to go to a restaurant. Who's my waiter? Merrick. I can't celebrate anything. I stay home. I stay home by myself. This is why I got all these energy drinks, Rise Fuel, great company, and I'm just doing everything I can to stay awake. I haven't slept in weeks. He's kind of getting to me. Let's be honest.
Sounds like that this is going to be something that you're going to have to deal with, though, coming up soon, though. No,
well, I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah,
I hope.
We'll find out, I suppose. I mean, ultimately, we'll find out. You can find out certainly on VTW's YouTube channel, where you can watch all of the VTW content. And get this, ladies and gentlemen, they have over 4,000 subscribers. Let me repeat this. Over 4,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet to Versus the World Wrestling, clearly your head needs to be examined. And your New Year's resolution, your goal for 2024 should be to subscribe to the VTW YouTube page right away. Just
look like my good my new good friend Tom here, and I'm not saying good friend is in Chase Wakefield. Me and Tom are now friends. I've been on Sportswire. We are friends now. Be like the 101 people who have subscribed to VTW in the last 28 days.
I did see it was. I think when you put the post on Facebook, it was 50, right? So now that was a couple weeks, so another 50 plus people. So just go out there and and you know what? And not even that. Go get a friend, tell the other friend to subscribe, almost make it like a domino effect. Because what I want to see, ladies and gentlemen, is I want to see in a couple of months from now, I want to see VTW get to 5,000 subscribers. Then I want to see it 6,000. Then I want to see it actually by the end of the year, we're 4,000, right? Let's get to 8,000 by the end of the year because VTW is a place. It's got everything. VTW is the total package when it comes to wrestling because you've got guys that actually go out there in the ring. They're pros. They go out there and put phenomenal work in, and they're actually doing it to entertain you, and they're actually doing things that they would want to do, almost thinking about what they would want to see as fans. They've got some of the best graphics, the best visuals, the best announced team, the best wrestlers out there. Just go out there and subscribe to VTW. And if you don't, I'm telling you, you need to have your head examined, and you shouldn't come back to Sportswire. So I promise you that you need to go out and support this company because this is an example of why all wrestling matters here. I have a lot of comments here. Let me try to get to some more people here. First of all, Mr. Havoc wants to say, Mr. Judgment has yet to see Roland in the DBW ring, but by all means, I'd have a good time seeing Aaron knock him left to the right in that ring. Maybe so. He says, or two. Also, want to say hello to management again. Boss the Sauce appreciates your comments. Although Orville, I won't repeat what he said, but it wasn't PG. I appreciate that.
Orville Miguel Galeo has something against me, and I bet he's the one who told. If you don't know our music guy,
yes,
his name is Hooter Brown. I bet he's the one who put up Hooter Brown to play that dadgum song for Merrick to walk out. I bet it was Orville's fault.
Well, you know what? I'm going to plead the fifth on that because I know nothing about it, and I don't want to get in the middle of that. Also, Big Tex wants to say, seems like the real boss man needs a big man to have his back.
I mean, I got Chase Wakefield. He's huge.
Yes, listen, Chase Wakefield might be the biggest man in this sport right now. If you got Chase Wakefield, I mean, you should certainly be not sweating at all because just go out there and send Chase to do it. Just go out there and, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to go out there and stand up for Merrick. Because remember, he said that, you're his best friend. So, if he obviously wants to show that, I mean, obviously it would be great for Mr. Wakefield to go stand up to Merrick and make sure your life is a little easier. So I'm sure Mr. Wakefield's listening out there that, if he can go out there and confront Merrick, that might be another way that he can show how serious he is about being your best friend. That could very well be a point. Also here, Big Tex wants to say, yes, you do a very good job at making cards, logos, posters. Go to Aaron Jones Pro for all of that information. As somebody like myself who's just started to learn how to do logoing, I've actually started to learn how to do that. What this man does, I shared his post on Facebook. This man, I mean, his work, I mean, listen, what don't you do? I want to know, is there anything you don't do?
I don't dance.
Well, I've got 2 left feet, so I'm not going to talk to you about that.
Now, if you get me drunk enough at a wedding, I will do the worm. Other than that, I don't dance.
All right. Well, if you do need some logos, you do need some designs, postering cards, flyers, all that stuff. Big Tex, definitely agree with you on that. Aaron Jones is the man for that. Speaking of people that I want to say hello to, I want to say hello to a man that you actually got some history with from years ago out there in the old days, back when he was in Altoona wrestling, Mr. Corey Graves. Bet you thought I didn't know that. Marek, a man I wish I knew. I know it. I wish I didn't. What a blast from the past. It was seeing him again. Kick his ass, Aaron. Well, you guys, you have history with Mr. Graves. I mean, going back to like before you were the real boss man, you might have just been like the real boss teen. I don't know if I would have called it what I would have called it as.
At that point in time, I was the Blackout. This was Best in the Yard 2. We had 3 companies world champions at the time. Me as the VTW world champion, Mr. Graves here as the APW champion, and
yes,
a guy named Everett Creed,
who
was the champion of UWE. The 3 Kings, as we titled the match, and we wrestled at one of the most successful shows our community's ever seen, almost at 20,000 views on YouTube. One of the most talked about events there has ever been in our community. And at the end of that match, Merrick This is where it all started when Merrick came out. Everybody thought he was going to cash in his Turbulence briefcase win on me to win the VCW World title, and he pinned Mr. Graves here for the APW championship. So Graves doesn't like him either. So Graves, hear me out. Give me a call. We can work something out.
Well, it was a pleasure to have Mr. Graves on Sportswire. I think it was literally, right before Merry Mayhem. So I'm sure I'll speak with Mr. Graves once again. Really, really enjoyable interview with him. He's got a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information and experience. And I know we'll be seeing him in a lot of different places, and especially in DBW again. But let me get to a pulling the curtain back comment from Mr. Tyler Aiken before I get to a different comment. I want to say hello to Tyler and thank you for tuning in as always. And Tyler's definitely somebody we'd love to get onto Sportswire so we can talk about you further for sure. But just pulling the curtain back. VTW takes a lot of time to put together and produce a 1+ hour show. It can sometimes take over a week to produce. I appreciate the comments. 2024 will be the best year yet. Yeah, I totally agree. And the reason I wanted to bring that up also because obviously I do a lot of work with the XCW guys, and those guys, Fletch, what he does, he puts on basically it's like every day they have shows, and I always joke with him. They're like the WWE network of this this scene, and the time they put in. He actually, I don't even want to say how many people actually work on that stuff. And I know what DBW does to put their shows on. It's a lot of work. So that's why I wanted to signal everybody out and kind of like give them a big shout out because it's really not easy. Knuckleheads like me who watch you guys on YouTube and think, oh, you put this product out there and it's like snap, crackle, and pop like a Rice Krispies treat. No, not so fast, friends. Not so fast. But these guys do behind the scenes. They work actually harder behind the scenes and spend more time behind the scenes and they actually do in the ring. Think about it. You guys are out there for a 1 hour show in the ring, but you're probably multiplying that times 10 in order to get these shows out there on YouTube. So huge shout out to everybody in VTW, every company out there in Sportswire that puts these products out there. Now he also wants to jump in.
If I can for just a second, because I'm going to have to pull. I got to pull back the curtain for a second, also, because on screen I hate that man.
I know.
I hate him with a passion.
He was about to say he's going back to hating you in a second, but
well, that's fine. That's but when we do pull back the curtain,
sure.
Tyler does put a lot of time and effort into VTW editing, and he's the one who makes the graphics for VTW, and he has put more time and effort into this than I ever expected him to when we came back. Like I say, him being on the commentary team, him being the editor, and then every week to 2 weeks, we have a big 5-man group meeting. There's 5 of us who get together, who come up with ideas for the shows, show names, dates, our booking stuff, matches, storylines. And it's not like we do that once a month and come up with the show. No, it's a consistent, almost every Thursday thing. And that is just to make sure we put out the best product possible. And sometimes those ideas will change weekly. We might have an idea one week, and then the next week we come up with something that we liked so much better. And some stories, like this Merrick story, was thought of in March. This is a story that we've thought about for a long time. And then there's some stories that we came up with the day before a show, and they became incredibly successful. And for those who did get to watch through the beginning of VTW this year, me and Tyler had a killer storyline based off of a very real life situation with his uncle Avery, who passed away, who was a huge part of VTW. He was a huge part of VTW. And for us to get to basically keep his memory alive through the first part of this year and go on to Ultimate Redemption to possibly have Feud of the Year, one of the matches of the year where I became the chairman of VTW. I took Avery's spot. It was such a hard storyline to do, and it was such a hard match to have. Tyler was almost in tears when he came out the curtain. You can see me walk through the curtain, and I start smacking myself in the side of the head because I'm like, these people are literally chanting for me to go F myself. But I'm on the verge of tears because of how much this means to me and how much time and effort we had put into that story.
Sure.
So when I say we give it our all, we give it 110% every single show. And the second that we don't give it 110%, we won't do it anymore. It's we give it our all or we don't give it at all.
What did Avery Hoke mean to you?
Uh, Avery Hoke, all honesty, was the greatest man I've ever met in my entire life. Avery was on the slower side, but growing up, it was like Avery had the same brain as us. So while he was much older than us, Avery still was like one of us. And he had such a love for professional wrestling. And that got us all started in VTW because if it wasn't for Tyler and Avery, VTW would have never happened. And over the years, Avery got to see us grow. Avery got to see us become the men that we are now. And he always believed in us. When it came to us being on the independent circuit or us at VTW or whether it was just us fooling around on a trampoline, he always gave us that 100% belief. And once he got sick, our passions, we kept going for him. We kept pushing for him. He would still come to the shows even when he was very sick. And then once he wasn't able to, we took the ring and put it in his backyard. Chill. We took our ring and put it in his backyard just so he could still watch us wrestle. Because without him, we would have never lived out our dreams. So there was a line I used in a promo with Tyler, and we okayed everything with each other. And I said that you wanted to say Avery carried this company on his back. Well, we carried Avery to his final resting place. And that's a true statement. Avery, along with all of us, carried VTW on our backs because we wanted it was our baby. And for us to even be asked, hey, Avery loved you guys like you were his own kids. He didn't have kids. He had Tyler, who was his nephew, who lived 2 doors down. They were the best of friends. So because we were friends with Tyler, we got that same bond. So for us to even be considered to be asked to do that meant the world to all of us. And at his funeral, there was a nice table set up with that title on it and his wrestling gear that he had and all these pictures of memories of him doing what he loved. And that, to me, that's what I always remember. I don't remember the times he was sick or when he looked bad or anything like that. I remember all those memories of having such a good time with him or going and seeing him and him just being happy that we were there. And I mean, I go to the graveyard once a week. I mean, I'll be 100% honest. I go sit down there and I just talk to him. And that's a great way for me to get things off my mind. And he's somebody that, as long as I'm alive, I'll make sure nobody ever forgets him. I will make sure somebody in this world remembers him because I will make sure to continue to say his name.
Well, I want to say this here as the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportzwire Radio, the #1 global radio station, and your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here, the Reverend Tom Bryce, Avery Hoke. We will always do our best to try to remember him and anything we could ever do to uphold his name and continue his memory, because this was somebody that showed a love for this sport like nobody else. Think about the people that he inspired. We all love VTW, but it's really because of Avery we have VTW. It's because of Avery we have all of these great people. And I know obviously on screen you guys want to kill each other, but the facts are is that it's because of Avery. And that shows you, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter what your disabilities are or, different brains and who's bigger, who's not. One person can make that much of a difference. One person can bring so many people together. And there is nothing else, in my opinion, in this world that can do that other than the sport of wrestling. Wrestling is the one thing, and I can tell you firsthand, I've spoken to people in England, I've spoken to people in Australia, I've spoken to people in Canada, I've spoken to people all over the United States. Wrestling is like a universal language. And Avery Hoke is somebody that is the definition of that. And it would be my honor to continue to talk about this, man. Anything we could ever do to promote VTW, we'll always do. VTW will always have a platform here on Sportswire Radio. We were speaking here for about 30 or 35 minutes here with Mr. Aaron Jones. Aaron, of course, is a very, very busy man these days. He's got 3 championships. We're going to see him in the ring next weekend, coming up in Redemption Championship Wrestling, an interesting match. And you can follow Aaron on Aaron Jones Pro on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok as well. So, Aaron, obviously, I do want to ask you about the 13th of January because this is a really interesting match, storyline, whatever you want to call it here at our friends over at Redemption Championship Wrestling. I covered them when the company debuted a few months ago. We obviously had, at the time, Cynic was on here, Moses Ireton was on here. So we had a couple of different people on from the promotion. And you're actually wrestling in a tag team match against Corey Edsel, and you don't actually know who your tag team partner is. Neither is him. And like, what are we expecting here coming up next weekend, sir?
See, here's the good thing is Corey Edsel does know his tag team partner. And I do know my tag team partner. It's just a mystery to the other person. And I mean, let's look at the show. I mean, Baby Doll.
Oh my God.
Wonderful legend. Going to be there in person. NWA, WWE, WCW legend, the Barbarian is in action.
God. I actually, I wish I would have had enough time for this, but I actually have a Barbarian WCW trading card.
That is great. And see, here's the thing. At RCR, I mean, I wrestled Corey Edsel on their last show, where I got once again screwed because Corey Edsel decided he just wanted our match to be a street fight out of nowhere, and then we started wrestling in this restaurant where he tried throwing me into a road. And he got lucky. He got the win. Congratulations, Mr. Edsel. But see, the good thing is you're back in the ring with Aaron Jones again, which gives you a reason to actually be there. But let's talk about Corey Edsel for a second. Corey Edsel at one time had a WWE contract. He was under developmental. He came in around the same time as the Revival.
Yes.
And working back on the indies again. Great competitor. But see, when it comes to Aaron Jones, Corey Edsel's a pretty big guy, and there's not a whole lot of people down here in this area that I really trust right now when it comes to wrestling. And I do have a partner, and sadly, I've kind of had to get a partner that we don't really get along. You could say that we're mortal enemies. You could say that sometimes he gets down on his knees and talks to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Well, I
Jesus
guess we'll have to find out on January 13th. That's what I'll say, because I know nothing about this. I certainly hope that
Tom does not.
I know nothing about this, and I'm sure this is a reason why you need to go out and support Redemption Championship Wrestling, because this seems like a really intriguing match nonetheless, because I think,
I have also heard through the grapevines that he's talked to the Barbarian. Corey Edsel has talked to the Barbarian, and it says the Barbarian will be in action, and I just hope to God that that's not his tag team partner.
I would certainly hope that's not the case either before I get to another comment in a second, because the Barbarian, now that's a man that I actually did watch growing up. I watched him on my TV screen in WCW because he tag teamed with some guy named Meng, who was actually, just as tough and just as powerful. They actually used to say that Meng was maybe one of the toughest ever to compete in a ring. I think Kevin Nash even once said in a shoot that Meng was even somebody he didn't mess with. So the fact that Barbarian teamed with him and Barbarian's career speaks for itself, I mean, I would certainly hope that Corey doesn't make that choice. I mean, maybe Chase Wakefield he could use instead.
You know what? I'm going to get Chase on that.
That would be, if he wants to be best friends with you, that would actually be better. So maybe instead, I'm sure we'll find out next week and whoever you team with, but maybe for Corey, maybe he would want to pick instead Chase Wakefield. Maybe that would be a better idea for him.
I think it'd be a phenomenal idea.
But we'll have to find out. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to ask you anything else about the Barbarian, but I will ask you about Baby Doll real quick, because Baby Doll, I mean, I did see I saw Iron Crawl twice. When I think about the NWA and all that stuff, I mean, Baby Doll's like in the middle of that prime era of the Von Erichs, and what's that going to be, at least to be in the same show as Baby Doll, a living legend?
So Baby Doll is such a sweetheart. I've met her one other time. I actually know her husband very well.
Okay.
Her husband is a guy named Chad Bird. He wrestles in the area, or used to. He's retired now.
Sure.
And I've shared a locker room with Chad many a times, and I have a lot of stories about the guy. But just to be in the locker room with somebody like the Barbarian or somebody like Baby Doll, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Like, if they're willing to give that advice, go take it.
Absolutely. I 1000%
Like
agree with you on that.
Barbarian has been on WrestleMania. He's been on huge events. He was in WWE. He was in WCW,
Oh, listen,
NWA.
Barbarian's a guy that honestly, I don't even know why he's not in the so-called WWE Hall of Fame by now. I have no idea why he's not in there. I mean, the guy has been like all over the place. I mean, he had at least a 15, 20-year run in all those three companies. I mean, he was a top guy for a while.
I mean, but I mean, just to be on a show with him is phenomenal. And I know, RCR is really trying their best right now to
Yeah, we did some work with them a few months ago,
Mhm.
and they really are trying to do it in the right way, I think.
They are. And one thing about RCR that I just kind of want to throw out here with Corey Edsel is he's the RCR American Heavyweight Champion. You are the main champion of this company, sir, and you've never even been in a main event. And so, listen, Corey, I mean, nothing but respect here. But after this tag team match, I'm going to take you and your tag team partner out. Maybe the next show, you can step in the ring with me one-on-one one more time. You can put that title on the line. And then I guess in March, I can defend that championship. That'll be 4 titles, by the way, people. I'll actually go and defend that championship in the main event where it deserves to be because it will have a main event worthy champion.
Well, you know what? I have a feeling that that'll be something we'll all be very, very curious about here. January the 13th, Redemption Championship Wrestling returns, and we will see who Aaron Jones' tag team partner is. And Corey Edsel, we will certainly see who you team with. Hopefully, it's Chase Wakefield, because that way we'd like to see that. If Chase wants to continue the friendship with Aaron Jones, that would certainly be the way to go about it. But, I have a comment, actually a couple of them, from somebody who I know pretty well, and you actually know pretty well also. And, this individual, I'm pretty sure is an assassin, a scorpion assassin, you may add. And he says, Aaron, the real Fat Man Jones. Funny how you're sleeping on me. First, with your friendship with Judgment and his ego. I lost the title. You cost me my match versus Chase Wakefield, which slapping that ham of a face was fun. I don't fear you. If DBW actually showed my response, you would know I've been on the reservation with family, asking them to forgive me for what I'm going to do to you. And it's show all your nothing. It sounds to me like that this is the former DBW champion of the world himself, Scorpion the Assassin, and you have had some history with him. And, I know you're looking at your phone right now. I know, obviously, maybe you're getting an important text message from Chase Wakefield about accepting that tag team. Oh, no, you're not. So what do you want to say then?
I'm just not taking this serious. Not
you're
your
not.
wonderful show, Tom. I of course take that serious. I don't take this comment serious.
That. Well, if you didn't want to take the show serious, that's okay too, because you're Aaron Jones. I'm not going to argue with you.
This is one of the best shows you can listen to about professional wrestling, underground wrestling, backyard wrestling, all wrestling, because all wrestling matters.
I appreciate that. Do
you know what doesn't matter? UWF NY's Scorpion the Assassin, because
yes.
I love how he can get on his cellular device. I don't know if he got on his phone and clicked on the internet.
He has the face paint on while he's doing that, actually?
100. I mean, I think it's tattooed on his face.
Do you think he sleeps with the face paint on?
Yes. he has his face paint on. He has a brawling buddy of Sting, and he cuddles it at night.
So do you think that he will actually, when Sting, we think, wrestles his final match in March, that maybe Scorpion will try to almost try to pull a kiss on us and maybe try to do the Scorpion the Assassin Sting version?
I don't know, but I don't know if you know, Greensboro Coliseum is only.
I actually absolutely do know. That's legendary NWA WCW territory.
It's only an hour. It's only an hour from where I'm from, so I may go watch Sting retire. I may film it and send it to him. That way, I can be like, "Hey, fix your loss, pal." But see, you want to talk about me, the real Fat Man? Yeah. Listen, Thomas, because I'm not going to call you Scorpion the Assassin, Thomas. I love how you can come on here and write your little comments and things. You can show up to watch this interview. Do you know why you show up to watch this interview? Because I'm a draw, and people care about what I have to say, which is why you're still watching DBW from home, because you want to know what I have to say. But you can't ever get in your car, drive on down to DBW and wrestle me, because I decided to challenge you in front of God and everybody, in front of your little friend Clark Williams and your little friend the Gamer Boy, and you accepted my challenge, and then you no-showed 3 events. Just like, look, let's be honest here, Tom. Maxis Fatal supposed to wrestle him at DBW, no-showed. Yeah, no-showed. Supposed to wrestle Mr. Thomas the Scorpion here, no-showed.
I know him as well.
Supposed to wrestle Thomas Mr. Scorpion again, no-showed. Supposed to wrestle Caleb Matthews, no-showed.
Oh, we definitely know that.
DPW roster. When I said that in that promo, I meant it. I mean, I was being 100% serious that if you want to wrestle Aaron Jones, you can. But if you want to keep sitting at home behind your little keyboards on your little flip phone, that's perfectly fine.
Wow, you used the flip phone reference. Boy, that's going way back to flip phone reference. Wow.
He tried sending a message on his rotary phone, but he realized that thing and got text.
Oh, you know what? You certainly had some real shots there. I don't know if Mr. Assassin, Mr. Scorpion, whatever you might want to call him
Thomas here. Mr. Bryce, we're going to call him Thomas.
I don't know if I can get away with that. You might be able to because you're the real boss man, Aaron Jones, the one-man
revolution. And I give you all the permission in the world.
Well, I'm going to certainly respectfully not call him that, but something tells me here that Mr. Assassin, I have a feeling will be on Sportswire Radio very soon. May not be today, may not be next week. It may even be not next month, but I have a feeling that this individual is going to come on and discuss you. Something tells me that will actually happen, but I would say that, you know what? Add him to the list of people I would actually want to see you wrestle because that's a man that was the prior champion in DBW.
I hope for your sake he shows up for the interview.
Well, if he doesn't, I could at least pull out my one of my Sting dolls and maybe I could put that on the screen. Maybe
ask what? If he no shows you, just hit me up on Twitter. I'll go to the bathroom. I'll smear some stuff on my face, and I'll come and do it for you.
So maybe, if not, we don't get Scorpion. Do you think maybe we can get like a Sting like impersonator or one of those like people that go to the comic expos or the Comic Con or WrestleCast, whatever they call those at this point now? Maybe they dress up in Sting face paint. Maybe we could try that.
Yeah, 100%. Nobody will know the difference. Just make sure they have 2 bad knees.
Well, no comment. I'll get to Ethan in a few minutes. I actually, in the interest of time, want to ask you about, you've been Texas Ground Zero heavyweight champion for over 1,100 days. And Chase and I was speaking about this when he came on the show a couple weeks ago. And, what is that like? What is that like being a champion for literally over 3 years? Everybody talks about Roman Reigns and Roman this, and you've actually been a championship you've actually defended, by the way, for over 3 years. And, what does that mean to you?
So the Ground Zero Texas Heavyweight Championship. Listen, I'm going to tell you the story behind this title.
Yeah, tell me. I love to know.
Great story. I don't know if you've ever heard of a wrestler named Zane Riley. Zane Riley was...
Yeah, I've heard the name. I couldn't tell you like every match he's in, but I've heard the name. Yes,
pretty big on the independent circuit. Used to team with Caleb Conley, who wrestled for Impact Wrestling.
Yeah. I know. I watched TNA going back from the days when it was on Fox Sport. That's how I'm dating myself. So.
Yes, but it was so good back then.
Yes. I was just on a Facebook conversation with somebody about that. Yes, I know the name.
Zane works backstage at AEW, but at Ground Zero, the first ever Ground Zero event in Lincolnton, North Carolina, Zane Riley defended his Texas Heavyweight Championship. Now, mind you, we were in a locker room of a wrestling studio, and there was a championship just laying on the ground that said Lone Star Heavyweight Championship with a cowboy hat. So what did Mr. Zane Riley do? He put it on. He carried the title out, and I am in the ring, and all of a sudden, here he comes with a cowboy hat and this title. He hands the title to the referee, and the referee goes, "Is this on the line?" And he goes, "Of course it is. I'm the Texas Heavyweight Champion." And I proceeded to beat Zane Riley that night. And became the Ground Zero Texas Heavyweight Champion, a title that really didn't even exist until that point. And as Chase Wakefield said, I've defended it in Puerto Rico, and in Cuba, in Canada. I almost did a stint in Russia, but decided, against it. I went to the UK. I went to Australia.
Where were you in the UK, by the way? Where did you go in the UK?
Well, see, here's the thing about all these matches I had. The footage keeps getting lost.
Okay, because I was gonna say, I
Every
was like,
every
I
single
do
time.
UK, I do UK wrestling, and I asked Mikey Anarchy this question
Mhm.
the other day who came on. He was actually rattling off people that with a small world I actually knew, and Danny Darko, and I was like, wow, you were in the UK, interesting there. But all these places you've gone to, huh? I mean, certainly a
It
special championship there, huh?
it's like for some reason they just don't plug in the camera.
Hmm.
But I've most definitely defended that
I got you.
title.
I got you. I
I
got you.
mean,
I see you.
hundreds of
I got you.
times.
I could see it.
I'm defending it in Antarctica in 3
Hmm.
weeks
Hmm.
against Scorpion the Penguin.
Oh wow,
Uh,
they've
it's
got us.
actually
So
well,
they've
it's
got
a
Sting.
wrestler.
They've
He
got.
wears black and white. He has little penguin fins, and he paints his face like Sting.
Oh, so they have Sting knockoffs even in Antarctica, huh?
Yeah,
I
it's
guess it's.
crazy.
I guess since I'll handle this for you. I guess since Santa Claus is basically free the whole year after December 25th, that in
Mhm.
order to keep the things running in Antarctica and pay the bills, they got to get Sting impersonators there. You're telling me?
Well, they do, but see, Santa's bulking up right now. Like he's trying to drop down on some weight. Then he's going to
Hmm.
bulk up. We're going to have a huge steel cage match in June.
Oh, all right. Well, you know what? I think we'll have to see. Maybe we'll get that Sting impersonator from Antarctica to come onto Sportswire Radio.
And hopefully the cameras will work.
Now, I wasn't going to bring this person up, but they're actually here in the chat. Now, this person, I would actually, and I mentioned this, I believe, with Chase. Now, this individual, another person that right now is a guy that certainly is a guy that I think a lot of people, and myself included, would pay a lot of money to see you wrestle in the ring right now. And, this individual's named Jack Delta. You heard of Jack Delta before? I'm sure you heard the name, right?
I have heard of Jack Delta for a many of years, and if you
Yeah.
want me to be completely honest with you,
Sure.
after you had Chase Wakefield right here on this, the next day I personally messaged Mr. Jack Delta,
Mm.
and we've had a nice little conversation.
Well, that's funny because of Mr. Delta knows a friend of mine who's a interesting individual who's actually fighting. I don't want to say his name. Well, maybe I should say it, but I won't actually. He's fighting in Nigeria, actually. He's fighting in what's called Dambe. Whatever you do, look up Dambe. And this guy's
Mhm.
actually going to go out and become the first British fighter to fight in it. Actually, personally liked what Mr. Delta was doing so much that he actually messaged Mr. Delta. So I'm happy to hear that you've messaged Mr. Delta because I want to let you know, sir, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, Mr. Delta is going to be live Monday night. And I would love to ask Mr. Delta about you because I know that obviously VTW is the place to be. And I know that Mr. Delta right now is currently the XCW New Age Champion of the world. And to me, XCW is basically, to me, right up there with VTW and certainly DBW. And I would hope maybe one day, you are the chairman, whoever else out there listening to this, maybe you could find a way that we could see Mr. Delta and yourself or anybody else out there. And, I think that maybe that could work because Mr. Delta's from the state of Michigan. Now, I don't know much about anything, but I do know that Michigan and North Carolina, it's not like, well, Antarctica, not like, well, Cuba, and like, well, Russia. So maybe one day we could see that possibility of maybe yourself and Mr. Delta. I'm just saying.
Look, he's in Michigan. That's just right down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump. But like I say, I did get a hold of Mr. Delta after the last show and sent him a nice message, and we talked a little bit. Does he also carry a little penguin bat? Actually, Jack, brother, you should have told me in that message the other day that you worked him. I knew he looked familiar in that match.
You know what? He probably has because
Jack's went everywhere.
I know. Yeah, you know what do I call him I call him the Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere, man. I call him literally.
Yes.
And I still want to say this. I know Jack doesn't have that haircut anymore, but I really hope he would bring that hair look back. I'm just saying.
But Jack Delta's been everywhere, but one place really, and that's VTW.
And that's why. Who do you think brought that up last week on Sportswire?
Mhm.
And who's coming back Monday on the show? Mr. Delta. And I would certainly am going to be asking Mr. Delta a lot about that because I just saw Mr. Delta wrestle in ROEW and maybe a better match than many pro wrestling matches I've seen himself and CJ Black there for their World Heavyweight Championship. The first match of 2024 might be the best match of 2024. And I think that Mr. Delta certainly, if there's a will and a way, would be an excellent participant in VTW. I'm just saying. What do I know?
I think the two of them put on a very good match, actually.
It was a great match. Great match.
Sat down and took the time to watch it. And, I do think Jack Delta would be a good fit for maybe a VTW show here or there. And peeling back the curtain, Ecstatic of VTW has pushed for Jack Delta for months. And right now, I'm not going to lie to you, it's incredibly hard to get booked for VTW. We're very strict about who we bring onto the programming, and we're not very big on one-offs unless if they mean something. But Jack Delta is somebody who we have seen grow as a competitor. I mean, I've known the name Jack Delta for the last close to 10 years. And I've watched his stuff over time, and I think that Jack is an incredible competitor. And I'm not going to say it, but maybe one day we can hope to see him in a VTW ring.
Hey, listen, you know what? If Joshua Fletcher, if Mr. Fletcher could certainly find a way to book him in his company, I mean, obviously you guys have a lot of things you have to work on, a lot of stuff that you have to figure out and consider. I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, and I'm going to continue to bring this conversation up on Monday because Mr. Delta's here. And I'm going to ask Mr. Delta about VTW. I'm going to certainly ask him about DBW. I mean, I'm going to bring you up. I'm going to bring up, you're the champion. You're the top guy in VTW. I mean, you're a pro wrestler. You're a top dog. And I think that Mr. Delta, if he would like to, have the time and ability, maybe he could make his home in VTW for all I know. Maybe he would want to, you say no more one-offs, but maybe Mr. Delta, maybe he could find that time, or if there's a will and a way to make it work for both parties, maybe Mr. Delta might want to be in VTW because VTW's got thousands of views. They got thousands of subscribers, and Jack would find a home in VTW, and I think that he would fit in just nicely with the likes of Chase Bridges, with the likes of Ecstatic, with the likes of the Blaze Ace Christian, with the likes of Chase Wakefield, or whatever Brandon Caselli calls himself next if he comes back, and Asher Christ, by the way. I mean, there's a long list of people. D-Lock, I mean, maybe even Merrick. Maybe, the Merrick problem could be handled by Jack Delta. There's a lot of different people in that VTW roster. I certainly think that Mr. Delta, he could make some music with. He could certainly play ball with, you might even want to say. So, I'm just saying, Mr. Delta, if there's a will and a way, I see him Monday night, and I'm going to ask him those questions. Mr. Assassin, I'm not going to call him by his first name. I'm going to call him Mr. Assassin.
Thomas.
You're certainly an interesting individual, sir. Aaron, man, you're good at talking. Unlike all of the scripted matches you had, when you step in that ring with me, boy, you're getting in a real fight. Hell, maybe I'll show up to VTW and embarrass you.
Okay, well, real quick, scripted matches. No, I don't do those. If you want to step in the ring with somebody like Aaron Jones, you learn to call it in there with me, pal, because I'm a worker. And like we said, we don't really like one-offs at VTW, and we're really strict. So
no Sting knockoffs, you're saying then? No Sting knockoffs?
I mean, I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say if you can't even show up to DBW, how do I expect you to drive another 5 hours past that?
Maybe he would want to fly. Maybe he would want to fly.
I don't know if he can fly. I think it will make his knees act up too much.
Well, I've actually heard those stories before that guys with like bad back and knees, they have to actually have to fly a certain way or can't fly a certain.
I don't know. I feel like his knees might swell up, and I mean.
Well, I'm gonna plead the fifth on all of that because I certainly know that I'm gonna have Mr. Assassin on here at some point, and I don't want to certainly get the man upset, especially because he could come after me like Sting, because he's gonna be because Sting's gonna retire in a couple of months, and he might be the heir apparent for all we know. I mean, listen, people say Kiss is doing AI. Maybe Scorpion the Assassin will do the Sting AI version.
That's the only way I'm going to get to wrestle him at DBW is if I wrestle him as an AI.
Let's not get any idea, Mr. Phillips. I know obviously you may want to break the bank, but maybe not break the bank for a Scorpion the Assassin AI version.
Look, he's already breaking the bank every month when I go there. I mean, he's got to pay that booking fee, brother.
Well, I'm going to certainly plead the fifth on booking fees, but Jack Delta, I'm not going to plead the fifth on. He says, I admire Aaron Jones' work and what he means for the community in that area. I agree. I don't know if you've talked about this yet, but when VTW ended, they flooded the indies and absolutely kicked us. Yeah, we kind of have talked about the fact that a lot of you guys have gone on and had, runs in the indies. We've kind of referred to that, coming back into VTW. So, yeah, it's kind of been, I would say, a mix of that for sure. And there's no question, again, the VTW product is not, it's not WCE's product. Let me just put it, and I love WCE. It's not WCE's. It's not, some other companies that have come on here. VTW is essentially a pro wrestling show, basically, with free reigns here. In the amount of time I have, I'll get to Ethan in a couple questions. But first, I got to ask you, what are your goals for 2024?
To make every moment matter.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
I mean, very simple. I want to make every single moment matter. Uh, I want to, in 2023 with VTW, I did a lot of squash matches kind of to help build the story. And I want to just remind everybody, like when it comes in between those ropes in that 16 by 16, like I can go. And in 2024, that is my number one goal, is to remind everybody of who Aaron Jones really is when it comes to being in that ring.
Okay, and I'm a big fan of the music, by the way. For whatever reason, that little country prelude comes in, I'm like, all right, this guy's coming in. He's a real boss man. Let me get to my buddy Ethan Sorensen, because he actually has a question that I was going to ask you anyway. Is there a favorite match you've had in your career?
I mean, I could name a couple.
Well, recently, I could name one I enjoyed you with, was the one with Brandon Castelli. That was the clothesline heard round the world. I mean, he was about to basically finish you off, and I think you did the best clothesline since JBL was retired. I mean, that was, to me, a match I really enjoyed, and it was just a pure ass-kicking match between the two of you guys. Rock hard, Brandon Castelli, got to give him a big shout out. You guys basically just went to war out there, and it was just a pure, almost like old school street fight. So that's, to me, a favorite match I've seen of yours recently. I mean,
Look, I have nothing but love and respect for Brandon. I mean, as a person, as a wrestler,
Yeah,
somebody
he's a
I share
good
a
man.
locker room with,
Good
great
man.
guy. And I'm not going to get into details, but that was a really bad week for me.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm going to get into details of the match. Don't worry.
Please get to the match. Yeah, I don't need the details, because I've already gotten in trouble on the air for things I've said. So, if you want to talk about the match, I would love that.
No, but just not a good week for me. And to get to share that match with him that week, where we wanted to go out there and have one thing, and I just kind of looked at him and I was like, brother, can we just go have fun? And he's like, yeah. And just to go out and not take it too serious, but also still go out there and try to have a good match. And just to get to share that moment with him in the ring. I mean, when it comes to filming and not what you see on screen, that was my last match of the year. I took the entire month of December off to let my body heal up.
It's a common thing I hear with a lot of independent wrestlers. I just had on Dean Allmark, who is wrestled in TNA. He's also a guy that has defeated Jushin Thunder Liger, Bryan Danielson. He told me the same thing, that usually every year he takes off the month of December to let his body heal. I've heard that before.
I think in the last 6 years, I've wrestled one match in a December. I mean, I've always took it off just to kind of let my body heal, do things with family.
Sure.
But, me and Brandon went out there, and like I say, we decided to do the Falls Count Anywhere.
Yep.
Because we had to have a winner.
Yes.
And to go out and just kind of, I really got to play with the crowd there. I got to go have fun with them. Somebody in the crowd made a shank out of a paper plate. So we used it. Brandon hit me in the head with a cup of macaroni.
Yes, I saw that.
But also, like, we were able to, like, just snatch somebody's hat and play with the Christmas spirit and just different things, but also throw each other into walls. And like you said, Brandon went for that beautiful knee he does, and he just miscalculated, and I kind of took his head off.
No, it was a really well done finish, I have to say. I mean, the match itself was just it was just like, again, an old school kind of match. It was really just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like to say, if you could have mixed old school with today's comedy a little bit, without it being too much comedy. Like I said, we had our couple little funny moments in there, but at the same time, it was like, we're going to make sure our stuff lands. We're going to make sure it looks good.
Have humor. I mean, you certainly have your elements to you, and Brandon certainly. I mean, Brandon's an interesting guy. I mean, he's a very, very charismatic guy, Brandon. Let me just put it that way, without saying.
Castelli is different.
Yes, I'm aware. I've got to know the guy very well. I've had him on a couple times. I follow his vlogs, check his vlogs out there, Crispy 1000, and he certainly is a very, very interesting guy. I joke with him off the air all the time. He's almost trying the three faces of three. That's kind of, he's got the three different gimmicks almost.
And I've really enjoyed getting to go up to Maryland and spend time with Brandon. Where we stay is at the same place. We stay at the same person's house.
Okay.
So every time before I come back to North Carolina, we go out that next morning. We have breakfast together.
Cool.
We spend some time together. Him and his lovely fiance are talking about their wedding, and she asked me to be a bridesmaid in their wedding. And I was like, as long as I can wear a sleeveless suit,
Well,
we're good.
you'll laugh at this, and I have a few more comments with Jack Delta as we're here with, of course, Aaron Jones, who, of course, is the Texas Ground Zero World Heavyweight Champion, the DBW Hub City Champion, and the VTW World Heavyweight Champion. You'll laugh at this, but I've actually, in my entire life, I've never actually gone to a wedding. So I find it so fascinating. Yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn, and life was interesting. It was my parents didn't have very little, and family was mostly either in debt or in jail. You'd probably appreciate that. So that really, we didn't have weddings, so it wasn't any of that. So I find it so fascinating now. People, I was invited to a couple of them, and I'm like, nah, I can't make it. I got invited to one on Wednesday coming up, but I actually have Chris Jones of XCW, and I'm like, I've got Chris Jones of XCW, who's a living legend. Sorry, I can't go, but I find it so fascinating that that's the honest truth. I have Chris Jones coming on, and I was invited to the wedding the same time, and I'm like, I have Chris Jones of XCW. I hope you'll understand.
But that also shows the dedication you have to your own product, and I have a ton of respect for that.
Well, I mean, listen, it's the people's platform, it's the people's house, but I think that's so fascinating. You might actually go as a bridesmaid to Brandon's wedding, and big shout out to
100%.
Brandon and his beautiful fiance there. Obviously, we certainly look forward to see her a part of DW all the time, Tristan, and big shout out to her as well. And Jack Delta wants to say Halloween Hangover cage match with Zach Daniels was also very good. And he also wants to say, give me a one-on-one with Blue Cyclone, the greatest wrestler in the history of forever, and you got a deal.
I'm gonna bring that up in a booking meeting on Thursday of next week. 100%.
I got him here Monday. He's here Monday Night Live, and I'm going to certainly make sure that I sing the praises of VTW. That's for sure. I'm going to bring it up.
But he did ask what my favorite, or you asked what my favorite match was, and we kind of got off topic. But the more I look back on it, I kind of want to give the cop out answer and say whatever my next one is. But if you want me to be honest, I've had a lot of really good matches with Zach Daniels on the indies, and VTW. We had a great storytelling match at the Avery Hunt Memorial, but me and Zach I talked about the Apple City Championship earlier for ACCW. We did a one-night tournament, and the main event was me and Zach for the title, and then eventually he beat me for that title, and I beat him to get it back for the second time. That match where I beat him back, we wrestled for 30 minutes in the main event of whatever that ACCW show was. And the story we were able to tell in that 30 minutes, and the entire 30 minutes we had that crowd invested and involved. They never got quiet, and we were able to get the cheers and the boos, and just everything all around was perfect. So I'm going to have to go with me and Zach Daniels, one of the 17,000 times we've wrestled.
Although I like the previous answer because the best one coming up is going to be your best. I always tell people, sometimes people don't know, my favorite moment or my, I don't know how to decide. I always say the future is going to be your best. The best is yet to come. So I have no doubt that we're going to see a lot of great things from you. We can follow you on all social media platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and also TikTok at Aaron Jones Pro. Also VTW Wrestling. Check them out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Also DBW on all their great platforms. Dominant Breakout Wrestling on YouTube, where you can watch Merry Mayhem dominating Backyard Wrestling. Also on Facebook, DBW Wrestling on Twitter as well. Yes.
Actually, they are now Dominant Breakout Wrestling on Facebook. They were able to get it changed.
Oh, thank God. Because you know what? I've been putting it in the banners as for all that time, and now I can finally, because they're not Backyard Wrestling anymore.
They haven't been.
Like ages now, so I'm finally happy that they can remove that. So thank you for that, because I will actually, after we're off the air, take that and change that banner. So really
Facebook is very odd about their groups.
I know.
They finally have changed it to where you can change the name, so they are officially Dominant Breakout Wrestling.
I'm in like
Facebook.
50 groups on Facebook, and I can't even share my shows on Facebook groups anymore. It's like this craziest thing. So yeah, Facebook is out there. I realize I can ask you a lot of questions, but I said that there was something I wanted to ask you specifically, because I know you've got these 3 championships. I know you've won a lot of things. I know you're a pro wrestler. You were just hobnobbing with Bobby Fish. Baby Doll's going to be on the show, and Barbarian, we'll see what he does. Hopefully, maybe he picks on Chase Wakefield instead.
I'm great friends with Fuego del Sol, who used to be in AEW. I just want to throw that out there.
Oh, well, you can certainly do. You can throw that name out there. You could definitely throw. You're Aaron Jones. Like I said, you can throw any name out there. But I want to throw something else out there because, I've obviously started this thing a couple of months ago when I redesigned my website called the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Now, I've been obviously doing this 5 years, and I've interviewed countless people in all walks of life. And we have different people in the Hall of Fame. Dean Allmark, Senate RPD, RP Davis, who in the UK became the first boxing world champion to become a wrestling champion. We have all these different wrestlers that have come on, and we have some college coaches. I was thinking about it. You're the real boss man, Aaron Jones. You're the one-man revolution, a man that's won countless championships, a 6-year pro, has done all these different things, and you beat all these different people, wrestled in all these different places. Now, I obviously know you're a busy man. I obviously know that you've got, many responsibilities, many requests, but I was wondering, especially for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, maybe one day would you want to be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame?
I mean, like I told you when we started this interview, it would be my pleasure. I know that you said, "Oh, it's an honor to do this." No, it'd be my pleasure. I mean, I think that'd be phenomenal. To one
I'd love to
day,
do it because we're actually giving out things. I have certificates made up. We do that. We have my website. We actually put your photo on the website. We actually have on my blog. I write a statement. I send it out to all different people. So it's actually like a legitimate thing. We're actually I've legitimized it. We already got, I think, 10 guys in it. Jackson Law gets inducted on Sunday. One of my analysts gets inducted tomorrow. We have all these different people have come. I have 2 college coaches that are inducted next month in college soccer and basketball. So it's a legitimate thing. It's not just backyard wrestling. It's not just pro wrestling. It's actually we have a guy that covered the New York Mets. He had a media pass. He covered the Mets for about 7 or 8 years. Blah 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 blah. So again, it would be my honor to have you. We can certainly pick a time, in 2024, you'd like to come back. I do a ceremony, I do a speech, I do all that. And, we, then induct you and, we give you those things that I brought up, the certificate, the press release, the photo on my website. And, I think if I don't do it now in 5 years from now, when you're in MLW, you're in GCW, those different places, when you're there then, and I can't ever get you. I want to get you now because I have a feeling in a couple years I ain't gonna be able to get you. Just like DBW, DBW's got you now. They got you now because they won't be able to get you in a couple years from now. So that's why we'd certainly love to have you in this Hall of Fame.
I'd love to, man. That's awesome.
Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we'll certainly figure that out. And congratulations to you, Mr. Jones. We'll certainly look forward to figuring out that time and place. And Mr. Wakefield's getting inducted as well. But I'll make sure it's different days. I promise you won't be on the same day. I promise.
It's got to be a different day.
No, I promise. That's why I was let me ask him first to make sure because it is Aaron Jones. I could ask somebody else to be I'll do the speech now. But I want to make sure first. But obviously.
I do want to say one thing right quick, though.
Say anything you want. You're Aaron Jones.
That you have another show very, very soon.
I do.
But
I do. They can wait. You're Aaron Jones. It's okay.
I love to give Chase Wakefield so much crap. It's one of my favorite things to do in this entire world, not just on here, but in person. I'm going to go out and say this completely out of character. I love Chase Wakefield, the guy behind the character. He is such a genuinely great guy.
He is a good dude. He's a good dude.
We truly have grown to be such good friends.
Yeah.
The best friend thing all happened on a whim. I just said it on programming one time. Why does it remind me of
Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens? I have no idea why.
A little bit. And, it was one of them things where I said it on a whim just to be funny. And he was like, I'm going to run with this. And we never thought it would come this far. And it has. But, he is somebody I talk to every single day. He's somebody that I check in on. He checks in on me.
No, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. So let me give a big shout out to Chase Wakefield because you're a busy man. And he asked me about you coming on. I was like, he's always busy. I'm like, Aaron Jones. I'm like, nah. There's some people they'll message me 20 times a day about coming on Sportswire. But I'm like, Aaron, I'll be straight up with you. I see you in a way like Dean Allmark and RP Davis. I'm not gonna bother you. I see Mr. I call him Mr. Allmark. I'm like, Mr. Allmark, is there anything? He's like, I like you. Just call me Dean. I'm like, yes, sir. RP Davis, I've known him for over 3 years, but it's I don't ask him anything unless I know for sure. Yes, sir. I see you the same way. Yes, Mr. Jones, you want to come on Sportswire? Okay, whatever you want. That's why I was when you got in touch with me, I'm like, I realize the only reason I'm speaking with you, sir, is because of Chase Wakefield. So that's why I have to induct him in the Hall of Fame because he got me you. So basically, he's inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, frankly, because, well, he helped me get you on this show. So that's why he has has to get inducted. So
And look, I might be Aaron Jones. I might be the real boss man. At the end of the day, I'm just a normal little guy.
I
And
understand that. I understand that.
and I love it. I mean, I love every minute of it. And don't ever hesitate if you want me on this podcast.
I would love to have you, but I realize
you
again,
just message me.
but you're a very busy man,
But
and
I
you
will
obviously.
always fun time.
No, I got that, but it's even like with Mr. Jack Delta. Like Jack Delta,
Mhm.
he's been a fan of my work for about 8 or 9 months, and I obviously like I don't want to ask Jack, hey, you want to come on Sportswire every day? Like there's some guys like Craven Rage, like, can I come on Sportswire? I'm like, yeah, okay, like there's some people that they come on here every minute, but like people like yourself, obviously, certainly, just to have you here, really, I owe a debt of gratitude to Chase Wakefield. Yes. Outside the character, awesome dude, great guy. I always joke. Finally, somebody I interview on Sportswire that has just about as long hair as me. So I think that's always kind of a funny one to me. Although I kind of find it skeptical that he was trying to grow mutton chops. I was like, Chase, you're on the show. Where's the mutton chops? And he was like,
real quick. I've had this in my head all day, and I cannot believe I have forgot about this.
okay,
What the heck happened to Robert Pearson's face?
I'm glad you brought that up because that was I should have brought it up with you, but I'm like, you're Aaron Jones. I can't get away with that with everybody else. With Chase Wakefield, I can get away with that. I can get away with that with all the other people that come on here. Jackson Saber, but I mean, like, is it Robert Pearson, or am I getting like half of Robert Pearson?
I think Robert Pearson died, and the government cloned him.
You think like he's hiding from like paying his taxes or something like that?
I don't know, but when he cut his hair and then he did he walked into a barber and he said, "Hey, do you listen to Motorhead?" And they were like, "I got you."
Do you think it's going to help him win more matches in DBW?
I hope so, because I mean he's a good kid. Him, and
I like him. No, he's a good. I speak to him a lot. He's a big
Mm-hmm.
supporter of mine. I like him. I just I'm so skeptical about the haircut, though. I mean, I'm going to have him on here.
It's so different. I think that he's going to go on programming, and people are going to be like, "Oh, they got a new guy."
My running joke was, I think it was either in Chase's show or it might have been Jackson's show, that I actually wound up saying, I can't cut my hair because I don't know if I'll ever grow it back.
Dude, tell me about. I wear a hat every day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there at the top of my head. I mean, but so I'd be like very skeptical at this point if I could do it. So like certainly, look, the Robert Pearson haircut. Stay tuned. I'm sure I'll be asking Big Tex the same question when he comes on Saturday's show. It might be the first question I ask. So I'm glad you remember because that's been the running joke.
Yeah.
I think it's 4 shows I've brought that up.
I thought all day, I'm like, I'm going to get him before he gets me about this Robert Pearson thing. But back to being in character, I hate you, Chase Wakefield.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people seem to in the locker room. They seem to hate him in character. So it seems to be the running theme, and certainly DBW that Chase Wakefield definitely might need some of those billions to really help himself buy some friends, because it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Jones is still very, very skeptical about being best friends with Chase Wakefield. But I know one thing. Aaron Jones is definitely not somebody you're going to be skeptical of when it comes to seeing him back in the ring on Redemption Championship Wrestling's first show of the year here on January the 13th in a tag match where both guys actually do not know technically who their partner is, although they know it, but we'll have to find out in public between now and next weekend. You can also see Aaron Jones, a part of DBW's Dominant Breakout Wrestling, where he is their new Hub City champion. He is also the VTW champion of the world, winning that at Christmas Chaos, their last show of the year. We saw Merrick come out. That's certainly a story to be continued. And he is also the reigning, defending for over 1,100 days, which is 3 years, the Texas Ground Zero heavyweight champion. And he's also going to be, the next time he comes on, a member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. It has been an absolute honor. I want to give you the floor, sir. Give you any closing thoughts, anything else you want to plug, share, or say, and the floor may be yours.
So once again, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to come on your platform and speak to your wonderful fans. But at the end of the day, I just want people to know VTW Wrestling on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Our first 2 shows of the new year, VTW Season Premiere 2 and VTW Reunion. That has always been a staple at VTW. We didn't do it this past year.
Sure.
We've decided to bring it back, starting the year off right with the VTW Reunion Rumble, where you never know who's going to show up. You never know what faces are going to show up. And to me, that's always been such a staple that everybody has always enjoyed, always loved, and has great views. Yep. Like I said, be like the over 100 people who have subscribed to our channel in the last 28 days. Amazing. Be like the 2,000 people who watched Christmas Chaos in 24 hours. Jump on.
I was one of them.
Jump on this bandwagon known as VTW. Also, like you said, you can see me at DBW, Dominant Breakout Wrestling. You can see me at RCR. You can see me on any indie show in North Carolina, up and down the East Coast. And honestly, you can see me here again doing another interview with my friend Tom Bryce.
I appreciate that.
inducted
Well, you know what?
in-
I'm excited about this because, I got Mikey Anarchy's endorsement, this guy's the GTS Intercontinental Champion. He's the UWF Underground Champion. And I was like, would you like to come back, Mr. Anarchy? He's like, you? He's like, I'll come back anytime for it. He was like, you actually were really good. I was like, I don't know what to expect. Yeah, people told me you were good, but, I don't do these, but I'm doing them more often with you only. So the fact that you said the same thing, this is a good ringing endorsement here the last 48 hours.
I will say 100%. I think you've done a phenomenal job with your platform. I think you did a phenomenal job with this interview, and I want to end this the same way I always end my promos, except this time I'll be saying it about you. Normally I say it doesn't matter what you do when you come out that curtain. It doesn't matter how you get in this ring or what you do in between these ropes. When you step in the ring with Aaron Jones, you can only be second best. And when it comes down to a platform like this, you can only be second best to Sportzwire Radio.
I can die in peace now. Ladies and gentlemen, I can die in peace. Aaron Jones has basically endorsed Sportswire Radio. I thought I couldn't top Mikey Anarchy. I thought I couldn't top what Dean Allmark said, but a man that is a champion, not one, for not two, but three promotions just said that Sportswire Radio is the place to be. I can definitely die in peace. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is why you want to follow Aaron Jones on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Aaron Jones Pro. Check out VTW, especially on YouTube. VTW Wrestling versus the World Wrestling. Christmas Chaos, thousands of views, 4,000 plus subscribers, 100 alone in the past month. Go out and support this company. DBW, support them. Also, Mary Mayhem also had just about 1,000 views already. Go out and support them. They're at 3,500 subscribers. Support them. Dominant Breakout Wrestling on YouTube. Dominating Breakout Wrestling. YouTube at handle. Also, Dominant Breakout Wrestling on Facebook. Now, thank you for reminding me that. I will change that when we get off the air. Also, DBW Wrestling, all those great platforms. Support these companies because all wrestling matters. My friend, congratulations. It has been an absolute honor. I can't wait to have you back. I'm looking forward to watching you more often in the ring. January 13th on the RCR YouTube page. I look forward to watching that as well. And I can't wait to watch VTW Season 2 returns. And congratulations. Happy New Year. All the best. And I can't wait to see. And you've definitely shown why Chase Wigfield is not your best friend tonight.
Thank you, Tom, man. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we were joined here by none other than the one and only one-man revolution, the real boss man, Aaron Jones. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio. In about 30 or so minutes from now, we'll be here with DJ Walbert of XCW. We're going to talk about Encounters Episode 4. So hang on tight for that. Might even be 35 minutes from now. But until then, if you're on sportswireradio.org, you go back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on, again, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn, hang out for a little while. I'll be back with DJ Walbert. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire